Hi everyone, welcome to Str8 Legendary, the program where I tell you about my creative projects and I help you with your creative projects. Today I'm joined by a very special guest host. This is Sharon. Everybody say hi, Sharon. So, Sharon, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are?
Well, I happen to be Stefan's wife and mom to our 3 wonderful children.
Which is amazing. And this show is all about creativity. So, can you tell me a little bit about some of the creative projects that you've been involved with throughout your creative life?
Oh, goodness. There are a lot of things that I like to do. I love to dance. I also enjoy singing. I have played piano in the past. I used to draw quite a bit, and I enjoy painting. Done a little bit of writing, not really creative writing though. So I think that's where my creative endeavors have been.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm super excited because today I'm going to tell you guys about a very special thing. This is a children's book that I wrote. It's called How I Met My Robot, okay? And this is very special because today we're actually going to be talking about creativity in children.
Yes.
And how to encourage creativity in children. And one of the ways I helped to encourage my children in creativity was they kind of sort of helped me write my book. So they were unofficial critics.
Yes.
They were unofficial editors, but my main editor was my wife here. So if you want to get a copy of How I Met My Robot, go to my website, www.steffonthomas.com. That's STEFFON Thomas.com. You can see it'll be down at the bottom of the screen. So anyway, so yeah, check out my book. It's a really cool gift for your children. It's a really cool gift for you, and it's a great gift for your school. So you can even take it in your school, and I also do book tours. So hit me up. I'll come to your school and read my book. It'll be fun. Okay, so today we are talking all about raising creative children. Right. I want to talk a little bit about some of the challenges of raising creative children, and I also want to talk about some of the solutions to dealing with creative children.
Yeah, I think all children are inherently creative, and you and I talk about this a lot, about how human beings are creative. When children are young, they are very imaginative. Everything is real to them, and there's the potential for them to do anything. You know, we're walking somewhere and the floor is lava, you know, or they're able to see the potential for,
we love lava floors
for play
here.
and everything. I think one of the major challenges that we have is time for play and time for creativity. And I think, you know, we have busy schedules and we have all these things that we have to do. And I feel like we don't always have enough time for children to engage in imaginative play for extended periods of time, or to engage, for our children who are a little older now, in some of the creative projects that they want to engage in.
It's a constant challenge with measuring and balancing time, right? Because like you said, we have busy schedules and we have different work we need to do, and then your kids will have, you know, if they're a little bit older, they have homework and you also, and if they're young, you need to get them in bed at a certain time.
Right.
But it's very important to try and find those times to have structured or even unstructured, you know, deliberate creative time.
Right.
You know, so it's very interesting because, you know, we talk about how we are born creative, right? We are imaginative from the beginning. I mean, like, what are some of the things that that help you to foster that, you know, that will help you to foster that creativity that we are naturally born with?
I think trying to remind myself about what it's like to see things through a child's eyes. I think that's one of the things that's helpful. So it's hard to stop and do that, I think, as an adult, because I feel like we kind of lose that ability over time.
We get a little jaded, and we have so much stuff to do.
Yeah, we become these people who can no longer kind of easily see kind of the wonder around us. And I think sometimes pausing when I really want to say, you know, no, you can't do that right now, or, you know, no, the floor is not really lava. I think sometimes just pausing for a second to realize that that's what the kid is seeing and appreciating at the time can be helpful, at least for our own children. I think one of the benefits I have is that I work with children for a living, and so I'm kind of always reminded of that time period and that innocence and that imaginative thought process that children possess, especially when they're very young.
And what about this? Okay, so now what happens when, okay, like I'm a writer, so I do a lot of creative projects. So when my kids, come to me and they say, hey, I want to do something creative, I kind of can easily jump in with them, right? And kind of, get down on their level just a little bit easier than maybe someone who doesn't work in a creative field. Okay, how do you deal with a challenge of being someone who has a certain interest or does something for a living, and your child has different interests from you, things that you don't even get, things that you don't even understand, which is something that can probably be, all parent-kid relationships can, deal with that. We grew up in a different time than our kids are growing up in. But how do you deal with that when your kid has some crazy idea and it's just totally out of your purview?
I think that's difficult. And you have to try and find avenues for them to be able to develop those talents and skills. And I think, for example, like our middle child is very dramatic, and I am not. I'm not an actor, but she may be. So I think finding ways for her to be involved in productions, drama productions, or in plays and things like that would be helpful for her, because that's not something that I can really help her with or really have a particular interest in. So I think it's being able to find the ways that your children can learn to develop the skills in those areas where they actually have a creative interest. So maybe looking for things like art classes at the library, or different drama troupes like I mentioned, or maybe a cooking class if your child is.
I think it's super interesting that you said the idea that our middle child is very dramatic and you're not dramatic, because sometimes when we are not, when we don't totally fully understand, or we're not totally similar to the things that our children get into, sometimes we look at it as, it's like, hey, stop doing that. Stop doing that, and I know that you've had to work on the idea of saying, like, maybe not to just jump on her and say, like, stop being all dramatic, and kind of be like, okay, kind of let this ride, and kind of realizing when she's just being a defiant teenager, or when she's actually just, kind of embracing herself, who she is,
right.
So it's very interesting. So we have a lot more to talk about. But we're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be back in just a few minutes with more Str8 Legendary. And we are back with more Str8 Legendary. So today, the creative project we're talking about are our children. Because that is a project. Raising children is a project.
Creative children is
it's a creative process. Either way. So we're talking a little bit more about fostering creativity, dealing with the challenges of raising children in general, but creative children specifically.
Right.
And we got a few more things we wanna talk about.
Yeah. So we want to talk about some ways that maybe we can encourage creative children. We've talked about a few of the challenges that we've identified for ourselves. And I think maybe one of the things that we can do is have some deliberate, unstructured time, where they just there's nothing that we're requiring of them. There's nowhere they have to be. And if they use the B word, which is bored, it's okay. Because that gives them an opportunity to just kind of sit and then rediscover things that are around them, or, make up a game or come up with a project that maybe they've had to put to the side. And for younger children especially, that becomes really important because they need that unstructured playtime. And as they get older, of course, it starts to look a little bit different, but something that doesn't involve a screen, something that doesn't involve necessarily them being entertained in a passive way, but them literally having to use their hands and use their minds to think of something to do.
And I think it's interesting that you even mentioned the screen. Like, we all know the push and pull with dealing with screen time now in society, right? We have more screens than ever.
And it's not that screens are bad.
Right, it's not that screens are bad.
But it's a different type of thought process that goes into playing when, people are engaging with a screen versus engaging in a much more like tactile.
And one of the things that I actually like to do with our children is, if they are always telling me about some show that they love, or some show or some character that they love, I like to encourage them to write their own stories or to imagine their own projects with those stories. You know, like if you are a huge fan of SpongeBob, you know, write your story about, you know, what your interaction would be with SpongeBob, or imagine hanging out with SpongeBob on your own. So that's another way that you can draw him, right? Take a shot at drawing him.
If you're our oldest, maybe you'll make a cake shaped like him.
Yeah, because she's quite the cook. So, you know, so take those things that the kids love and encourage them to do them on their own, like outside of the screen. Like if they love a certain game, have them do that game with their toys or whatever, you know, or so, you know, encourage that creativity. So what are some other ways we can help with this creative process with our kids?
One of the problems that we solved is I guess it's not really a problem, but when we're trying to get rid of what we would consider to be trash items around the house, and any one of our 3 children will say, "Oh, can I have that to make
boxes,
a blank?" I think our youngest one is probably the most guilty of this, and he can see things out of whatever item has been sitting there for a while that I finally want to throw away, and it's, "Oh, that would make a perfect whatever." And so we realized that we cannot simply keep all of the clutter that they can see immense potential in. So we have a box. They each have a designated box where they can put, you know, a few items that they want to keep, that they want to repurpose for their own creative purposes. So, you know, the package of that something came in can become Thor's hammer. The bubble wrap can be used for something, and you know, they want to paint it and do all these different things. But we had to control the chaos because it was just there was just stuff.
Right. And this same school of thought can be applied to your kids' creative projects that they bring home. Their pictures, you know, they have a lot of stuff. And you're like, what do I do with all this stuff? I don't have enough space in my wall to hang it all up.
Right.
You can have a box for that.
A treasure box.
A treasure box that they can put their stuff in.
Even decorate the treasure box.
Absolutely. That could be a creative project.
That could be a creative project. Right.
So your kids are really, really trying to explore their creativity, explore the world around them. So we want to encourage that, you know? So a couple more things.
Yeah, talked about doing creative things together. And I think it's important to remember that creativity doesn't look like just one thing. It's not always kind of what we think of with art, right? In the sense of drawing, painting, coloring, or music with singing or playing an instrument, or dance, or writing. But it comes in the form of cooking. So doing things together, like cooking together, can foster creativity. Baking together, you know, obviously because you're a writer and you do creative projects, you bring our kids in on some of your creative projects.
Absolutely. And you can also bring it in even on things like chores. You can find creative ways to do chores, you know, creative solutions. You know, no matter what, whether you get into a creative profession or a non-creative profession, a lot of times you're going to be looking for solutions to problems. And you want to teach your kids creative thinking, even when it comes to something that may not be specifically creative. You know?
I would argue that creativity is required for almost any profession.
So don't stifle your children's creativity. It will make them more productive human beings when they are older. All right. So go ahead. Go ahead.
So another thing that I wanted to say was that in order to encourage creativity, it's important to expose children to creativity. So doing things like going to museums and looking at art. I think one of the most impactful things we did was see the Kehinde Wiley exhibit.
Great exhibit.
At the Toledo Art Museum. And our kids are still talking about that a couple of years later. It had a huge impact on them. Going to concerts when we can. You know, there are tons of, you know, outdoor concerts and all kinds of events that take place, especially locally, that you can take your kids to, exposing them to musicians and artists, taking them to plays or theater performances. Our kids really like going to see productions at our local high school, for example. Reading is a really important way to expose children to creativity as well.
Absolutely.
You know, all of our kids are actually pretty good writers, and I think one of the reasons, well, they probably get it from you, but I think something else that...
It's the only thing they do get from me. They get
not true.
Their looks and their intelligence and everything else from you.
That's not true. But I think that's something that's been really important, is that their exposure to creative writing in the form of books that they read encourages them and informs their ability to write themselves. So all of those things are really important. I mean, even something as simple as like watching cooking shows. One of our kids' favorite shows is like Chopped Kitchen Wars, because it causes these people who are professionals to take random items that they couldn't possibly prepare for and turn them into something delicious.
Absolutely. That's a great idea, exposing your children to creative stuff. Like it's a great outlet. They have a great outlet. It allows them to see something they haven't seen before.
Right.
And it's just really good
for all of us.
to make them, more well-rounded as people. So, and then, so one more thing I want to touch on is just even the idea of, giving your children prompts. It kind of goes along with the same thing about like saying, hey, you like this show, why don't you do your version of this show? Right. Giving them something, that they can build off of, So like, even as far as like, okay, they have some blocks, say, hey, build something with these blocks, or hey, here's an idea, you are a turtle, what would you do? Have them, it's perfectly fine. I mean, where does the whole idea of the floor being lava come from? It's just the idea of taking an idea that's already there, the floor being lava, and then figuring out how you would navigate it, So so that's another fun thing that you can do to help foster creativity as well.
That's a great idea, because I think especially for people who don't necessarily know where to start, it's a way to have kind of a structured approach to encouraging creativity. So to give an example, one of the things that we really like to do is our own version of Chopped Kitchen Wars. Mm-hmm. So it's a win-win for everybody, because it allows me to get rid of stuff that I want to get rid of from the refrigerator, and it allows the kids to be creative in their cooking. And our kids are a little bit older, so they're allowed to do that. And I'm the judge, so I give them 20 minutes with these random things, and they have to try and come up with something fun, and they really seem to enjoy that.
Yeah, and kids love making messes, I mean, it's the perfect place for them to be creative and to make a mess.
Right.
And then you can find a creative way to clean up together as well.
There you go.
There you go. A lot of creativity there. So, well, Sharon, thank you so much for joining me for Str8 Legendary.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a great conversation, and I hope to see you back sometime soon.
Thank you.
All right, thanks everybody for joining us for Str8 Legendary. Remember, imagination without limitation is the only expectation. I'll see you next time.